Hello everyone, we're going to paint with acrylic paints on canvas today, and we're going to do a very simple pear, but what I want to do is give you more of an opportunity to practice mixing paints and blending them in order to create shadows. So this is an example that my daughter made up for us, and one of the things that we need to think about as we're painting is, where is our light source coming? Okay, so we're going to have it coming in from this side, which means that our paint is going to be lighter, even shades of white over here for the highlights. And then over here on the opposite side, it will be darker. Okay. So we're going to use what is called kind of a painterly brush stroke here, where it's not going to be too fussy. We're just going to be blending our paints, and our brush strokes, it's perfectly fine if they show. Okay, so make sure that you've got your canvas in front of you. We've made a template so that we have the basic shape of the pear for you. You need your paint palette, you need some water in a bowl, some paper toweling, a variety of paintbrushes, a pencil. I'm drawing in green, so perhaps you can see it a little bit better. And then you need a light blue paint, white, yellow, green, and then we'll use just a tad of black. Okay, so I think that's all of the supplies that you need. Take a nice breath to sort of center yourself. Make sure it goes down into your belly so that it relaxes you. Okay, so we'll begin by drawing the stem and the leaf on the pear. And they usually have just like one big leaf here. Just make a nice, and we'll fill up that space up there. Okay, and then we can add the veins and that kind of thing on the leaf later on when we've got our paint. Okay, I'm going to set this off to the side a little bit, and let's talk about mixing. We're going to paint the pear first, and so we're going to use yellow. So we're going to put some yellow out, about the size of a dime will do. And then we are going to put some white out on one side. And we're going to put green on the other side. Okay, those are going to be our three colors for right now. Okay. So I want to take a smaller brush to do the outside first, and we're going to start with our yellow. So let's get our brush, move this back over here a little bit. Let's get our brush a little damp. Remember, we don't want it drippy. And then we're going to go with the design of our pear. You want your paint to glide on smoothly. Okay. Sorry if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. I think they're barking at the cows. Okay. So we're going to use our bigger brush. And this is what we're going to just do for the base coat, just to get our white covered up. And then we're going to start adding on some layers of some different colors. Okay, we have that done. And I'm going to go put my dogs in the house. I'll be right back. Okay, we're done with our base coat and we're ready to start adding some other colors to it. So I'm going to take some of my yellow and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of white. So you can use another part of your, and we're going to, if the light is coming from this side, then we want it to be a slightly lighter yellow. So again, we're just doing this a quick, just to get a little variation. So just take a little bit of your yellow, a little bit of your white. We want our highlights to look like they're very natural. Okay. Now we're going to take a little bit of our green and a little bit of our white. And put some green over here. And then we can take a little, just a little darker green here by the edges. And then we're going to take some green back over here on this side. So what we want to do is keep our brush strokes going curved. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this pear is because it's such a nicely shaped, wonderful, like curved shape that I wanted to have you experience just having your lines go with a curve to have your brush strokes helping to give that illusion of volume and roundedness. Okay, so then you can get real adventurous and you can start mixing some of your yellow and your green together to get even a different color to put on the pear. And don't worry if you don't like it, we can always go back and paint over it. Okay, so I'm going to add a little more yellow here. So see how this can start blending in? And I want to blend that in a little bit more. I'm going to get a little more yellow here. So we'll go over some of that green to lighten it up just a little bit and blend it. Now we want to keep down on this area darker because that's where we're getting the shadows. And I want to lighten this up a little bit. So see, even if you don't really like what you did before, you can go over it and lighten it up. But again, don't be going back and forth like this. We're going rounded and rounded. And I'm going to leave this a little darker here because it's going in, so it's not going to catch the highlight quite as much. Okay, now when we're kind of happy with that, we're going to take a smaller brush and we're just going to put it in the white. And there's usually a couple of spots where you get the most highlight. And this will really make it pop. But again, we don't want it to just be lines, right? We want it to be an area that is a little bit. And again, if you don't like it, you can always go back over it with your white, with your yellow and your green. Okay. Now, I've got to work on the shadow over here just a little bit more. So what I want to do is just pull out just a little bit of black, because that will give us our shade, a different shade of our green. And it's going to be just a little bit of black. And there, I like that better. Don't want it too dark. And then we're going to go over this area right here just to give it a little shadow, a little more shadow. Okay. And then you can go back over with a little bit of green to soften that up a little bit if you want. And kind of make that green feather into that. Okay, so we're getting our little bit of shadow there. Okay, so I need to get a skinny brush because I want to do the same. I want to add a little darker yellow right there. So I'm going to get just a little smidge of yellow. And then I'm going to go on this line to give it a little bit darker. See, so we're working on, and you can even put a little bit down here if you want to, where it's sitting on the bottom, right? So again, just a little bit of black with that yellow. There we go. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of water because I want to feather that out a little bit. So you can move your paint around a little bit more. There you go. Get it right up there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now we're going to work on the stem and the leaf, and we're going to start with our green. And a small brush. Okay, and then we're going to go around the outside of the leaf. You can move your paper around the other way if you need, whatever makes it comfortable for you to get at all the spots where you want to paint. Okay, then we'll graduate up to our bigger brush. Okay, and so we want to add, I'm going to add just a little bit of black to this, just so it's a little, again, to just kind of get some of those brush strokes and make your color a little more interesting. If we pick up the smaller brush and add a little bit of black to that, see how powerful that black is? Then we can do a little bit of a shadow on this side. Always want to keep your shadows on the same side. And we could do a little bit of a shadow here. And then we can add a little bit of white to it. Might be a little bit too much. And do a little bit of highlight here. Again, don't be afraid to just layer over your paint. That'll give it some depth. And then we'll do some more of that green and white together to give the stem some of the light there. And then I'm going to go back over that slightly while it's still wet to kind of blend that color together. Okay. Okay, so we're now ready to start on the background, which is a nice light blue, which makes a light, excuse me, a nice contrast to the green and the yellow. Before we do that, I want to make sure that you really have all of your brushes that you just used nicely cleaned out, because we're switching colors, as I said. So we just want to make sure we don't have any lingering green or yellow on there. Okay, so as you all know, we're going to be using a smaller brush, and we're going to be using our blue, and we're going to be putting a little bit of white out, and we're going to use a fresh white because I don't want to pick up any of that green that might be in our other white. And then we're going to make a little bit of a grayed blue. So in order to do that, we need a little bit of black. Oop, put out a little too much, but you get the idea. Okay, so we're going to start off doing our base coat and going with our line. Going carefully around the line. And in order to make it easier for you, keep turning that paper around. And notice as I'm doing that, I'm cleaning up some of my image, my line on the lines on the pear, so it looks a little crisper. Again, that's what I like about painting. You can make a mistake and it's no problem because you can always cover it up. And I got a little ridge there. Make sure we're not getting ridges. We want to turn our page, so we're going with the stem. This tight little area, if you need to use a even smaller brush, feel free to do that. And I'm going back and making sure I'm smoothing out my ridges. Oops. Using my brushes there. Okay, we've almost got this worked around. Okay, the challenging part is almost done. Now I can take my much bigger brush and finish out this base coat. Again, make sure you don't get ridges on it. Now, since you're painting on a canvas, again, if you want to paint the edges the color of your background, that's fine too. Since I'm just working off a piece of paper, I'm not going to do that. Add just a little more water. Excuse me, blue paint. Don't need more water. This is coming out pretty well. And wipe off some of that on my background. Okay, now we're ready to have a little bit of fun. So we're going to add a little bit of white to the blue. And again, this is going to be very painterly. We're just going to put some of these brush strokes kind of randomly around. And I'm going to put the lighter ones on this side. And once you have it on your paper, if it's too just white, it's no big deal. Just add some blue over it. This is just to give you a little bit of color variation on your background. It can be very subtle. Okay, I'm going to hold it up because I'm getting a little glare, so I want to make sure that I can see it right. Okay, so now we're going to use a little bit of our black here. And we want to make just a grade. I'm going to add a little more blue to that. There, that's more. I just want it to be a nice, subtle difference. And then I'm going to put some of that on this side. Just kind of keeping up with the shadow and highlight sort of theme. Again, very haphazardly. If it gets too dark in some areas, that's fine. We'll put some dark down here where it would be sitting, right? If it gets too much, if you don't like it, take your brush and with just blue on it, and you can go over it. Get a little closer to my pear than what the big brush would allow. There we go. So you have just a little bit of variation. Everything's very, as I said before, subtle. Okay. All right. And so now we just need to let it dry. Like I said, with your canvas, if you want to take the light blue and go around the outside edges, that's fine too. But now when you're cleaning up, make sure that you get all that paint out of your brushes so they don't get stiff on you. And I hope you enjoyed the lesson this week, and we will be back next week. Thank you.